Hello, this is Shelby Larson, and this is my midterm project for Communications 250, Section 12. We are going to go on a little field trip today to BYU Provo to help in the academic advisement department where they have been struggling with some cohesion in their department. They've had a lot of turnover and people are really unsatisfied and they want to make some changes. So they have called in some consultants to give them some ideas on how they can create more cohesion. And this is where consultant Shelby Larson comes in. Today in your department, we're going to talk about the cultures that exist in organizations. And this doesn't just apply to your department, this can apply to any organizations. Did you know that our culture is the single most determining factor in how we behave and see the world? The single most determining factor. That would make the culture that we live in fairly important. So a culture is any group of people that share a common identity. So that identity might be your traditions. It might be different stories you tell, or country or state you've come from, your values or your religion, or any number of these different influences here that cause us to share a common identity. An example might be that in BYU Provo, we have a common tradition of being Christian. Or Latter-day Saints. We celebrate Christmas. That's a tradition that we have, and many of culturistic characteristics can be combined together. Stories, values, religion, these things are values, come from our religion. A lot of times in the LDS culture, we tell stories within our religion that represent our values. And this culture in Utah, in our state and country, we get a lot of our culturistic tendencies from our religion. So let's talk about what your culture believes. So today we're talking about the culture that exists within your employment in the Academic Advisement Center. What is the organization's relationship with their environment? How do we interact with our environment? What kind of things do we do here? What is the reality in our culture? Do we say things such as, well, this is the way we've always done it, so we're going to continue doing this way? Or do we say, hey, let's come up with something new. This isn't working the way that we had thought before. How do we accept human nature in that department? Are we run in a machine-like way where human nature doesn't have a lot to do with it? What is the nature of human interaction? I would think in academic advisement that the human activity that we have within people and listening would be very important, and also our human relationships. That's a lot of what we do. So let's see what assumptions we have of things that we naturally assume. The different priorities and way that we're going to do things. We need to address those things and enumerate upon them so that we're all on the same page. Just because one person thinks that this is the way it ought to be done, maybe that's something that hasn't been verbalized within the company. Let's talk about getting creative and creative learning in our organizations. Steve Jobs, who we all know as the co-founder of Apple, said creativity is just connecting things. When you ask a creative person or creative people how they did something, they feel a little guilty because they didn't really do it. They just saw something seemed obvious to them after a while. So with this creativity, this can occur in any of us. This isn't just being able to knit or draw. This is the creativity that makes each of us unique. Now, anytime we're trying to change something or cause change or evaluate things, we run into hurdles, and hurdles can be blockades because human nature sometimes doesn't like change. So let's talk about some hurdles that we might run into. Cognitively, we have to appeal to people. Why do we need change? So in this department, what's the problem? I hear that there's been a high turnover rate and some job dissatisfaction. So these might be reasons or other reasons that you know of that we need to have change. There may be limited resources for a while. With change, we have to evaluate what our resources are and where our resources are placed. What is important within the company? Where are we lacking? Can we reallocate resources to the things that we find that are more important? For our motivation, sorry about that slide change. For our motivation, people have to know why the change is needed. And as humans, a lot of time we are selfish. We want to know what's in this for me. If we do this change, how is this going to make my life better? And politics. We wish there were politics in the world sometimes, but there's inner office politics. Let's try to get the powers that be on board. Those that can really make the changes, we need to help them see why we need to facilitate this change. How can we successfully overcome these hurdles? Now that we know what the hurdles are, how can we go about overcoming them? We do have to be fair and remember that change is slow. Change is it's a lot more difficult to make a bad habit than it is to break a bad habit. That change is difficult. So let's start small. Start with the simple folks, the people low on the totem pole. And as they begin that change, let's shine the spotlight on them and show everyone, hey guys, this change is a good thing. Let's see what happens here. You see that? You see that? Well, that's awesome. And sometimes people, tough love, harsh realities, we need those sometimes. Having, management do grunt work or having the grunts see that management has some stressful things sometimes so that we can integrate better with people's jobs and have a little more love in the office. Change the distribution. Look for ways, we talked about this, to redistribute resources. Where are resources going? Are they going where they're needed? Or are they just, like we talked about, going where they've always gone? Well, I'll have a little Godfather clip here for you to give you a little humor today. And a word was kind of fostered in that Godfather era. Get your consigliere. You're your insider, your person that's on the inside that can tell you, as the people that are trying to facilitate this change, what's going on. What's the word on the street? How are things going? We need feedback. And sometimes if you're the people that are fostering the change, people may not be as honest with the feedback, but an insider will be able to get that honest feedback. So let's talk about our organizational creativity. What is organizational creativity? We talked about what our culture is and what goes on in our culture. And now we're going to move on to how we can have this change in creativity in our organizations and in the workplace, and even, take these things into other organizations. It's harnessing our creative spirit. It's each individual way, our individual creativity. And with this creativity, we can meet the goals in the organization and the creative needs of the members. Let's talk about how we can get thinking outside this box. Now, first of all, we have to realize that people can't give something they don't have. If you've hired somebody as your executive assistant, they're not going to be the head of your IT department. So we can't expect those things to turn out differently than what we've hired. Let's figure out these cute little... We're having some technical difficulties here. Let me go right back in, guys. So sorry about that. Let's go right here. There we go. We cannot give what we do not have, right? We need to explore our inherent individuality. We all have different things about us. Creativity is a complement to the development of your organization, right? Like we just had a faux pas here with our technology. That's all right. We can go with the flow. We can go on the fly here. It's not a big deal. We can complement the ability that I have to go on the fly here. It's all right. We bring that to this training because we understand that all people make mistakes, and it can help the organizational dynamic, and it can help with the get out of the box mindset. Sometimes we put these blinders on that we're just looking down the tunnel. Whoa, looking down that tunnel. And we need to broaden that and think outside that box. And we can raise the awareness of the existing creativity of our own spirit because each of us is different. So let's talk about what this is not. Okay, we are not doing some new motivation technique within your unit here. It's not some new philosophy that we've come up with, and we're not trying to get your management to come up with a new approach. Let me just make that clear. This thing has a mind of its own today, guys. But that's okay because we are creative and we can go on the fly. We just talked about all that. So let's talk about the actions that we take and the byproducts we get from those actions. So first of all, we have to understand what motivates each individual. We're not just, herding cows here. These are people. What motivates people? Let's harness that individual creativity. And as we do that, we combine individual creative units to create an organizational wholeness like puzzle pieces that fit together. We can't get square pegs to fit into round holes. We find pieces that fit together, and we align those individuals into groups with same passions, same organizational goals to be cohesive and work together. Do we need somebody that's just going to be a button pusher? Great, let's not have them be the person that interacts all the time. You want somebody really receptive and good with people on the phones? Fantastic, then let's put somebody on the phones that does that. So we have that create collectiveness because we're doing jobs that we love. And the byproduct of these things are employees are motivated. They're doing things that they love. They learn to manage the collective thinking within our business. Our organization design and restructuring just comes about because we've done this. It's just a natural change. And maybe we have changes in management where those things work out and the ways in which we manage. And the most important thing that I believe occurs is greater job satisfaction. People wake up thrilled to come to work, and the management is thrilled because of the organizational success. So hopefully these are some ideas that you can think about, and you can wrap your head around these ideas of how to create this cohesiveness within your individual units. Let's talk about a few miscellaneous ideas to make this a little more concrete and applicable in your minds. First of all, let's talk about some identification. Let's just begin by identifying those different employees' strengths and weaknesses and how to make diversely connected groups for different tasks that are going to work together and be successful. And this may be a little give and take, and you may make some mistakes along the way, and that's okay. Change is, we learn from our mistakes. Let's encourage the innovation. Employees love to be trusted. They love to feel like they're not just a robot performing a task. Maybe allow them to work from home on occasion. Less meetings, allowing them to be creative in ways that they might accomplish a job that you wouldn't, but it does work. And this provides unity in the office. Maybe let's not have those nice, lush offices to cause differentiation. If we have a central place where we're working, people can communicate, and a fresh office has fresh ideas. New things just come up. So as we wrap up this presentation today, I want you to just take a step back and baby steps. We're not talking a complete overhaul here. We're talking about how to slowly make these changes work for your organization over time. And that begins by more of a mindset change for our success ahead. How do we foster in our minds this change? And I believe it begins by looking at each person as an individual. Realizing what our culture is, how we're doing things here, how we can focus on that individual, and how that realization of our culture and understanding of the individuals can foster greater creativity in our organization that creates a unity and an excitement for our job and our organizational success. Thank you so much for allowing me to be part of your community today, and I hope that these changes will bring happiness and future prosperity into your organization.